You're standing in line at Starbucks, $5 latte. You tap your card without thinking. Later that day, you add something to your Amazon cart, just $12, free shipping. Before bed, you're scrolling through DoorDash because cooking feels like too much effort tonight. $38 plus tip. Here's the thing, none of these feel like financial decisions. They feel like Tuesday, and that's exactly the problem. Because while you're sitting there wondering why you can't seem to save money, why your bank account looks the same as it did 2 years ago, why everyone else seems to be getting ahead, the answer is staring you in the face every single time you pull out that card for something under $20. I'm going to show you something in this video that's probably going to make you uncomfortable. Actually, scratch that. It's definitely going to make you uncomfortable, because the math I'm about to walk you through reveals exactly why you feel broke despite making decent money, and it has nothing to do with your salary and everything to do with decisions you're making dozens of times per week without even realizing they're decisions. My name is Jack, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology of small purchases and why they absolutely destroy our ability to build wealth. If you're someone who makes decent money but somehow never has anything to show for it at the end of the month, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I need to show you something that's going to bother you, and I mean really bother you, because once you see these numbers, you can't unsee them, and your relationship with money, specifically with small purchases, is going to change forever. The real math nobody wants to calculate. The average American makes what the Federal Reserve calls micro-purchases, transactions under $20, approximately 47 times per month. That's according to a 2024 study from the Journal of Consumer Research. 47 times. We're talking coffee, snacks, mobile games, streaming services you forgot you had, impulse purchases at Target because you went in for toothpaste and left with $63 worth of stuff you didn't know you needed until you saw it on the shelf. Now here's what most people don't realize. It's not about the individual purchase. Nobody's financial life gets ruined by a single $8 burrito bowl. It's about the pattern. It's about the complete and total invisibility of these decisions. Let's do the math together, and I want you to actually follow along here, because this is where people's eyes start to open. 47 purchases a month. Let's be conservative and say the average is just $12. That's $564 per month. Multiply that by 12 months, and you're looking at $6,768 per year in micro purchases. But Jack, you're thinking, I need to spend money on food and stuff I use, and you're right. But here's the thing, I'm not talking about your actual grocery shopping or your planned expenses. I'm talking about the purchases you make without thinking, the ones that bypass your conscious decision-making entirely, the ones where if I asked you 3 days later what you bought, you couldn't even tell me. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The opportunity cost nobody talks about. Let's say you cut just half of those mindless micro purchases, just half. That's $3,384 per year, still buying stuff you want, still living your life, just being slightly more intentional about it. If you took that $3,384 and invested it in a basic index fund averaging a historically modest 8% annual return, do you know what you'd have after 20 years? $167,189. Let me say that again. The cost of your thoughtless purchases under $20, if you reduce them by just 50%, is $167,189 over 20 years. That's the down payment on a house in most American cities. That's your kid's college education fully funded. That's retiring 3 years earlier. That's the financial security you keep telling yourself you'll figure out someday. And it's vanishing into purchases you literally don't remember making 2 weeks later. But wait, because it gets worse, or better depending on how you look at it. If you extended that same discipline for 30 years instead of 20, which, let's be honest, if you're in your 20s or 30s right now, 30 years gets you to retirement age, that same $3,384 becomes $408,923. $400,000 from cutting your mindless spending under $20 by just half, not even eliminating it, just being half is impulsive. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Jack, but life is meant to be lived. I can't just never buy anything. What's the point of making money if I can't enjoy it? And look, I completely agree. This is not about deprivation. This is not about living on beans and rice and never having any fun. This is about awareness. Because here's what the research shows us. We have completely different psychological relationships with small purchases versus large ones. Dr. Priya Raghubir and New York University studied this extensively, and what she found is fascinating. When we make a large purchase, let's say a $1,200 laptop, we agonize over it. We read reviews for hours. We compare prices across 7 different websites. We ask our friends. We create spreadsheets comparing specs. We sleep on it. We wake up and research some more. But when we make a $7 purchase, our brain categorizes it as essentially free. The pain of payment, that's the actual term psychologists use, is almost non-existent for small amounts. It doesn't trigger our financial defense mechanisms. There's even a term for this, the denomination effect. We treat money differently based on how it's denominated. $100 bill feels valuable, important, worth protecting. But 5 20s, those feel spendable. 20 singles, we'll blow through those without a second thought, even though it's mathematically the exact same amount of money. Your brain is literally wired to ignore small financial decisions. Evolution didn't prepare us for this. For most of human history, resources were tangible. You had 3 chickens or you didn't. You had enough grain stored for winter or you didn't. There was no such thing as a $4.50 transaction that you'd forget about by dinner. But now we're making dozens of financial decisions per day, most of them completely invisible to our conscious mind, and our Stone Age brains have absolutely no framework for dealing with this. The real-world examples that hurt. Let me give you some specific examples, because I think this is where it really hits home. There's this guy I know, let's call him Mike. Mike makes $68,000 a year. Not bad, definitely not poor, but Mike is constantly stressed about money. He's got maybe $2,000 in savings, and he's in his mid-30s. He keeps talking about how he needs to get serious about investing, but he just doesn't have the money to start. So I asked Mike to track his spending for 1 month, just 1 month, everything under $50. You know what we found? Mike was spending $340 per month on food delivery. $340. That's $4,080 per year. If Mike had invested that money starting at age 25 instead of ordering Chipotle through DoorDash, he'd have $267,000 by age 55. But it never felt like a financial decision to Mike. It felt like dinner. It felt like I had a long day. It felt like I'll cook tomorrow. Or take Sarah. Sarah has a Starbucks problem. And before you roll your eyes, just hear me out. She gets a venti iced coffee with oat milk every single morning, $6.25. Sometimes she gets a protein box too, another $7.95. That's $14.20 per day. Sarah works from home. She's literally walking past her own kitchen, getting in her car, driving to Starbucks, waiting in line, driving back, and sitting at the same desk she could have made coffee at. She's doing this 5 days a week, sometimes 6. That's $3,692 per year. Over 20 years, that's $188,374. When I showed Sarah this math, you know what she said? But I love my morning Starbucks. It's my routine. It's my little treat. And here's the thing. I'm not even saying she's wrong. If that coffee genuinely brings her $188,000 worth of joy over 20 years, then it's worth it. But what bothers me is that Sarah is also stressed about money. She's worried about retirement. She's frustrated that she can't save. She feels stuck. You can't have it both ways. You can't spend like money doesn't matter and then be stressed that you don't have money. The subscription avalanche that's drowning you. Let's talk about subscriptions for a second, because this is where the micro-purchase problem becomes absolutely insidious. According to a 2024 survey by CNR Research, the average American is paying for 6.7 streaming services and recurring subscriptions. But here's the kicker. When asked to estimate their total monthly subscription costs, people underestimate by an average of 42%. 42%! People literally don't know what they're spending on subscriptions. You know why? Because each one feels small.
Netflix is $15.49. Spotify is $10.11. That meditation app you use twice is $12.99. Your iCloud storage is $2.99. Disney Plus is $13.99. HBO Max is $15.99. The New York Times is $17. That fitness app is $9.99. Hulu is $17.99. YouTube Premium is $13.99. That meal planning app is $7.99. The cloud gaming service you forgot about is $9.99. None of them individually feel like a financial decision worth reconsidering.
For services you're not even actively using half the time. And here's what makes me genuinely frustrated. These companies know this. The entire business model is designed around this psychological vulnerability. They price subscriptions specifically to stay under the threshold where your brain would flag it as worth canceling. They're banking, literally, on the fact that $12.99 per month will never feel significant enough for you to take action. It's not an accident that everything is $9.99 or $14.99. It's not an accident that they make cancellation slightly annoying, not impossible, just annoying enough that you think, it's only $12, I'll do it later. They've done the research. They know that anything under $15 per month flies under most people's financial radar. They know that the pain of canceling, finding the right web page, clicking through the menus, confirming you really want to cancel, getting hit with the "Are you sure? You'll lose access immediately" message, feels more significant than just letting it run for another month, and another month, and another month. And suddenly it's been 3 years and you've paid $467 for a meditation app you used exactly 4 times. The compound effect in reverse. This is the scary part. Look, everyone understands compound interest when we're talking about savings. Put money in early, let it grow, exponential curves, retire rich. We got it. Every personal finance book talks about it. Every investing article mentions it. It's Finance 101. But we don't think about compound loss. We don't think about the reverse side of that equation. Every dollar you spend today isn't just that dollar. It's that dollar plus every dollar that dollar could have earned if you'd invested it instead. It's not just the money, it's the opportunity cost of the money. A $15 purchase today, invested at 8% for 30 years, would be worth $150.90. Every single time you tap your card for something small, you're not spending $15, you're spending the future value of that money. This is where it gets really painful. Let's say you're 30 years old. You've got another 35 years until retirement. Every $10 you spend mindlessly today is really $147.85 you won't have at retirement. That grocery store impulse buy of random snacks you didn't plan for, that's not $23, that's $340 at retirement. The DoorDash order because you didn't feel like cooking, that's not $38 plus tip, that's $622 at retirement. That random Amazon purchase of stuff you don't need, that's not $67, that's $990 at retirement. When you start thinking this way, and I mean really internalizing this, these small purchases start to feel very different. Because you're not just buying a coffee, you're choosing coffee over $150 in retirement money. You're not just ordering delivery, you're choosing convenience over $600 in retirement money. Now, does this mean you should never spend money on anything? Of course not. But it means you should be conscious of the trade-off. It means you should be intentional about it. The invisible poverty trap. Here's something that really bothers me. I see people who make $70,000, $80,000, even $100,000 per year living essentially paycheck to paycheck. They're not poor by any objective measure. They're making good money, but they're stressed about finances. They're not saving, they're not investing, they're financially fragile. And when you look at their spending, it's not one big thing. It's not like they bought a yacht or a sports car they can't afford. It's 1,000 tiny things. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. They've got 7 streaming subscriptions. They order lunch out every day. They get coffee on the way to work. They use DoorDash 3 times per week. They buy books on Amazon they never read. They've got app subscriptions they forgot about. They upgrade their phone every year. They buy clothes they wear once. They get drinks with coworkers twice a week. None of it individually feels like a problem, but collectively, it's destroying their financial future. This is what I call invisible poverty. You're making good money, but you're broke because you're spending it all on stuff that doesn't matter. And because each individual purchase seems small, you never feel like you're making a mistake. You never have that moment where you think, wow, I really messed up financially. Instead, you just have this vague sense of stress, this feeling that you should be doing better, this frustration that you're not getting ahead despite making decent money. And here's the worst part. Because you're not poor, because you can afford all these little purchases, you don't feel like you need to change anything. You rationalize it. I work hard. I deserve this coffee. It's only $12. I'll start saving next month. But next month never comes, because the problem isn't your income. It's your relationship with small purchases. The broke millionaire phenomenon. I want to tell you about this concept that's been studied extensively in behavioral finance, the broke millionaire. These are people who, if they had been even slightly more intentional with their spending, would be millionaires. But instead, they're broke. A study from the National Bureau of Economic Research looked at lifetime earnings and retirement savings for Americans. What they found is stunning. The median person earning $50,000 plus per year over their working life will earn approximately $2.4 million in their career. $2.4 million will flow through your bank account. For people making $75,000 per year, it's around $3.6 million. For people making $100,000, it's nearly $5 million. And yet, the median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $120,000. For people in that same age group earning $75,000 to $100,000 per year, it's around $200,000. Think about that. Millions of dollars earned, $200,000 saved. Where did it go? It went to thousands and thousands of small decisions. It went to conveniences and subscriptions and impulse purchases and I deserve this and it's only a few bucks. It's the broke millionaire phenomenon. You earned enough to be wealthy, but you spent it all on stuff you don't remember. What to actually do about it? The real action plan. All right, so you're probably feeling a little attacked right now, maybe a little defensive, maybe thinking about that iced coffee you bought this morning or the DoorDash order you placed last night. That's normal, but here's the thing. Awareness is the first step. You can't fix a problem you don't acknowledge exists. So here's what I want you to do. Here's your actual action plan, step by step, no BS. Step 1, the 30-day brutal honesty tracking exercise. For the next 30 days, I want you to track every single purchase under $50. Not to judge yourself, not to stop buying things, just to see, just to create awareness. Use an app like Mint or YNAB. Use a notes app on your phone. Use a little notebook you carry around. I don't care. Just write it down. Every single purchase. The coffee, the lunch, the Amazon order, the app subscription, the parking, the snacks, the drinks, everything. At the end of 30 days, I want you to sit down and really look at it. Categorize those purchases. How many were planned? How many were impulse? How many brought you real value? How many do you barely remember? Then, calculate what percentage of your income went to purchases under $20. I guarantee it's higher than you think. Step 2, the 24-hour rule for non-essentials. For any non-essential purchase under $20, implement a 24-hour waiting period. Add it to a list on your phone. If you still want it tomorrow, great, buy it. But you'll be shocked how many things you completely forget about because they weren't actually important. For purchases between $20 and $100, make it a 48-hour rule. For anything over $100, 1 week. This does something powerful. It turns an impulse into a decision. It forces your brain to engage with the purchase consciously instead of on autopilot. Step 3, the complete subscription audit. Right now, today, before you do anything else, go through your bank statements for the last 3 months. Highlight every single recurring charge, every subscription, every auto renewal,
everything. Make a spreadsheet. Column 1, service name. Column 2, monthly cost. Column 3, annual cost. Column 4, how often you actually use it. Column 5, keep or cancel. Here's the rule. If you're not using it at least weekly, cancel it. Not monthly, weekly. If you're paying for something you use less than 4 times per month, you probably don't need it. The only exceptions are things like insurance, utilities, etc. But for entertainment, apps, services, if it's not weekly, it's gone.
Step 4. Meal Planning Sunday. Every Sunday, spend 1 hour planning meals and grocery shopping. 1 hour. This single habit will save you thousands per year in delivery and restaurant purchases. Step 5. The coffee compromise. Daily coffee buyer? Make it at home 4 days, buy it 2 days. You're cutting the cost by 60% while still enjoying your treat. Or buy a nice espresso machine. $400 up front, but it pays for itself in 3 months if you're a daily Starbucks person. Step 6, the replacement strategy. Don't just deprive yourself. That doesn't work. Take half of what you save and allocate it to something you actually care about. A vacation fund, retirement, a hobby you love. Now you're choosing between instant gratification and something meaningful. Step 7, automate everything. Whatever you identify as monthly, mindless spending, automatically transfer half of it to an investment account the day after you get paid. Automation removes willpower from the equation. Make it impossible to spend that money on impulse. Financial success isn't about huge, dramatic changes. It's about thousands of tiny decisions that compound over time. The difference between someone who builds wealth and someone who doesn't, assuming similar incomes, isn't some secret investment strategy. It's being slightly more intentional about money. If you make 47 micro purchases per month, that's 564 per year. Over 20 years, that's 11,280 small financial decisions. Make them on autopilot, you end up broke. Make them consciously, you end up wealthy. Every time you pull out your card, you're making a choice about your future. Most people don't realize they're choosing it all. The uncomfortable truth about lifestyle inflation. Your income is not the problem. I know people making $45,000 who save 20%. I know people making $150,000 with nothing in the bank. The difference? Lifestyle inflation. Every time your income goes up, your spending goes up to match. You get a raise. Now you can afford a nicer apartment, eat out more, upgrade your car. Suddenly you're making $90,000, but just as stressed as when you made $50,000. Your lifestyle expanded to consume every additional dollar. The solution? Every time your income increases, increase your savings by the same amount before increasing your spending. Otherwise, you'll just be a broke person with nicer stuff. The final wake-up call. Look, I know this video made you uncomfortable. Good, it should. The good news is this is fixable. You don't need a higher salary. You don't need to inherit money. You just need to pay attention. If you're 30 years old and implement everything I talked about, cut mindless microspending by half, invest the difference, you could easily have an extra $400,000 by retirement. $400,000 from being slightly more intentional about purchases under $20. Or you can keep doing what you're doing. Keep spending on autopilot. Keep wondering why you're stuck. It's your choice, but at least now you know what that choice costs. Here's my challenge. Track your spending for 30 days. See what's actually happening. Then decide if those purchases are worth more than your financial security. Because that's the real decision. Not, do I want coffee today, but do I want this coffee more than I want $150 in retirement money? When you frame it that way, the choice becomes clearer. If this video helped you see money differently, even if it made you uncomfortable, hit that like button and subscribe. I make videos about the psychology of money, the math most people never calculate, and the behavioral changes that actually lead to wealth. Drop a comment below.
What's your biggest micro-spending weakness? Coffee, DoorDash, Amazon, subscriptions? The first step to fixing it is admitting it exists. Remember, every dollar you spend today is a choice about your future. Make it count. I'll see you in the next one.